This is the third in our series of examples on solving trig equations by factoring. In this question, we are faced with the problem of solving 3 sine squared x minus 7 sine x plus 2 equal to 0 on the interval from 0 to 360 degrees. After having done the previous two examples, we should be able to recognize that this equation is a quadratic equation in terms of sine x. When we attempt to factorize this, to get 3 sine squared x, we would have to multiply 3 sine x by sine x. To get the plus 2, we can either multiply a positive 1 by a positive 2 or a negative 1 by a negative 2. To determine whether both numbers would be positive or both would be negative, we need to look at the middle term. The coefficient of sine x is minus 7, which suggests that those two numbers must both be negative. So the two numbers should be minus 1 and minus 2. The minus 1 has to go in the first bracket and minus 2 in the second. So when we use the distributive law, 3 sine x by sine x, 3 sine squared x, minus sine x minus 6 sine x gives us minus 7 sine x, and minus 1 by minus 2 gives us plus 2. So the trig equation is going to factor in this way. Either 3 sine x minus 1 equals 0, or sine x minus 2 equals 0. Now in the second case, if sine x minus 2 is equal to 0, that implies that sine x must be equal to 2. However, from our knowledge of the sine curve, sine x takes values only from positive 1 to negative 1. 2 is outside of this range. Therefore, sine x cannot take the value 2. There will be no solution whenever sine x is equal to 2. Turning our attention now to the first factor, 3 sine x minus 1 is equal to 0 implies that 3 sine x must be equal to 1, and therefore sine x must be equal to 1 over 3. We now find the reference angle alpha, and it's equal to sine inverse of 1/3, and that is 19.5 degrees. Now, sine x is equal to positive 1/3. Where is sine positive? You would recall the first and second quadrants. So we put our reference angle 19.5 in the first and in the second quadrants. So x is equal to 19.5 degrees in the first quadrant, that's this angle, and in the second quadrant it's equal to 180 minus 19.5 degrees, which gives us a value of 160.5 degrees. So the two solutions to sine x equals 1/3 are 19.5 degrees and 160.5 degrees, and these are actually the only two solutions for 3 sine squared x minus 7 sine x plus 2 equals 0, since our second factor sine x equal to 2 gives us no solution.